So today we're going to be looking at my new duck cage. Well, new slash old. I made it a while ago, but I've been meaning to put this video up for a while, but I haven't got around to it. So I'm just going to show you some of the things I changed in this duck cage, which I wish I did in my other one. Apologies in advance for the ducks for all the noise they make. They're very rude. Anyway, let's get into it. So, first thing I'll talk about is the size of this cage. Now, with my original one, it was 8 feet wide and 12 feet long. So with this one, I only made half the size because with that one, it was way too big and not very practical for moving. So this one is 6 feet across and 8 feet long. So that's the first thing I changed, just to make it more practical in moving, so someone who isn't as strong can still move it, but it still has got quite a bit of weight to it. Now, another thing I changed, as you can probably see, is the angle of the roof. The last one I built didn't have enough angle on the roof, so I had problems with the water sitting on top of the roof, and that would just make it splash onto the nest box when you try and move it and just make a mess. But also the slant and the angle of the nest box was not steep enough on my other one as well, so water would sit on top of it and not run off. But with this one, I made sure it has plenty of angle and it has a bit of a lip, just so the water doesn't go into the nest box. And another thing I did change is clearance, because with the other one it was quite low to the ground and it would just get caught on clumps of grass, and when you're going through really thick grass like this, it just gets caught on the bottom and makes it extra hard to pull along. So with this one, I got a bike for $5 and took the tires off of it and attached them to this old, I think it was a trotter cart, and it had the right attachments to attach a bike tire to them. And then I just got a piece of metal and welded it to the side of it and put an extra brace there. So now it's got a lot more clearance than the other one did. But because the original trotter cart, the height of the bar was up here, it would have just been way too high if the bottom of the cage was on top of here. So I ended up cutting off its original brace and then welding another one on. So that's been working well so far. But with having more clearance, it does mean you have to have a longer ramp, but that's not too much of a big deal, because it just goes up above the cage instead of being aligned with it, but it's no problem. And another thing I did change was the mesh inside the cage. The other stuff I had was 50 mil by 50 mil for the gaps of the holes, and I found the ducks' feet were getting, or their toes would get caught in it, and their webs in between their feet would occasionally rip on some of the ducks if they were like fighting or trying to mate each other inside the cage. So this one is 25 by 25 mil mesh. And I also found with the floor in my other one, since it was so wide, I didn't have enough braces, so the floor in between these gaps was bending in a lot, which wasn't helpful. And so another thing I did change with this cage is it only has 2 wheels on it. The other one, I think I started with 2 wheels, but I ended up putting 4 wheels just because it was too heavy. And so only having 2 wheels, it makes it more maneuverable. But it does mean that you have to take on extra weight when you're moving it, but that's not too much of a big deal. So my original idea or design for the handlebars was I was going to put the pole through this piece of wood, but then after I sort of started building the cage, I worked out that'd be way too low. So I did end up keeping that piece there, but then adding this angle piece down and then putting the hole in there. And I knew it was going to be an issue of the ramp because that would have to be a really long bar for the ramp to be able to fold down and keep the bar in. So it's just a removable bar. I'll show you how it goes in a minute, but yeah, this has been a lot stronger than last time because I think last time I might have just had a piece coming up on an angle here, and that broke after not too long, and also because that cage was so heavy. Yes, we have a lot of noise around here. Oh. It's also quite humid today. I think we're going to get some rain. There's dark clouds off in the distance. Anyway. So it's pretty simple to move. You just lift this up here, lock it in place, and then I have made it so you can attach the bolts to both ends of the pole, but for the moment I just have one. I do put both of them on when I do big shifts. So you just put it. And then you just lift. So you want it to be low enough that you have to bend down to actually grab it to pull it up. But once you pull it up, you don't want it to be too low where the posts down here drag on the ground. So you're going to make sure you can lift it up high enough and that you have a straight back, straight body, and can move it along easily. Now with this one, it has got a bit of weight, and it is a bit of a challenge to move when it's full of all these fat butts. But yeah, it is a lot easier to move than my last one. Now as for scale of the cage, if you were just doing it in a backyard, you could do something a lot smaller. And from my experience, I wouldn't really want to do one any bigger than this, because then it's just not practical to move because it's too heavy. But I guess if you did use lighter weight material to build it, it might not be as sturdy, but it might be a bit lighter to move. These guys are a bit antsy because they know it's close to their bedtime. And some of you have probably noticed that there's white ducks mixed in here. That's a bit of an interesting story. So I have mixed in there some Muscovies, which my brother bought, but he hasn't built the cage or had time to set up an area to manage them. And there is actually a couple white ducks in there which are mine, and they are from the Khaki Campbell eggs, so they're not any other breed, but they were just the genetic throw-off, so that there must have been some sort of other breed in there mixed in. As you can see, that one there at the back, that one's just came out white from these brown ducks. So I don't know if there's a bit of Pekin mixed in with their genetics, but apparently the white genetic was just stronger in a couple of eggs, so now I've got two white ducks which are mixed in there with the Khaki Campbells, but who knows why that happened. It definitely wasn't from the Muscovies because they hatched before the Muscovies, and I'm not sure how crossbreeding would go with Muscovies and Khaki Campbells, but anyway, I better put these guys to bed. I just thought I would give you a bit of a short video on the differences I made with this cage. If you have any questions, leave comments, and